All right, so my name is Kenny Ruiz. I'm the artist and designer of MagChop. I'm the creator of MagChop. And basically the name comes from how I do my art. That's the biggest question I get. How did you get the name MagChop? And I chop up magazines. My art is actually collage art. So that's where the name MagChop comes from. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. I grew up in Humboldt Park area, which is the inner city of Chicago. And the nickname in my neighborhood was Murder Town. I'm sure you guys have heard the stories coming from Chicago. Yeah, they started way back when I was younger as well. I grew up in a rough neighborhood, and I came from really good parents, but life has its way of turning things around. My parents ended up splitting up, house broken, and one thing that people don't know about gangs, and Chicago gangs especially, is that when you go through something hard and you're in the neighborhood, they're gonna take care of you. So when your parents and your family's struggling and you guys are all down, guess what? They're gonna step in, they're gonna say, hey, I got you. I got you. You need some shoes, you need school supplies, you need these things, they're gonna take care of you. And these are kind of things that happen as I started, once my parents had split up, I started getting into the street life very easily. I started off doing graffiti and then started slowly graduating into gangs where my mom and basically freaked out and was like, listen, you know what? I'm not gonna have you lose your life here in Chicago. So she shipped me off to Florida I was like 15 years old. And there's a saying that they say you could take the kid out the city, you can't take the city out of the kid. Well, I came into Florida and right away it was like a free-for-all. It was like, this is easy. So, I started getting in trouble down here as well. And after getting kicked out of both Ely and Deerfield High School, I realized that I needed to get something better going with my life. Had an opportunity that none of my friends in Chicago had. Several of them had passed away after I moved to Florida, and I was just like, man, I have an opportunity to do something different. So I ended up graduating actually through a special program. I graduated on time and I actually won the award for most artistic. I used to be able to sit there and look at you and just draw you. And I never wanted to go into art as a business though. It was just never something I wanted to do. I always had this idea that was instilled in me that you have to go start yourself at the bottom of a company, work your way up to the top of that company, and you eventually run that company and life is supposed to be good. And I didn't find that was happening. It was difficult to get work, and then when I finally got into work, I did. I worked my way up to the top of a company, and I was like excited about it. And my life had gone into a very positive direction. I was managing a major plumbing outfit. I had like 64 people under me. I come from doing the actual sewer and drain work, plumbing work. I got injured and worked my way into the office on light duty and up to operations manager. But tragedy struck in a weird way. When I wasn't doing anything wrong, in 2006, I was arrested and I was charged with attempted murder on a law enforcement officer amongst a slew of other charges, and it was a mistaken identity. I lost 2 years of my life and had to go to trial. Now, thank God I didn't have to spend the entire 2 years in jail. I spent from January to May, but I don't know how many of you have been to jail, but it sucks, and I hated it. But I was still, even with my resume, it was still difficult for me to get work. And now I'm out on bail. Nobody wants to invest in you while you're out on bail, because if you go to jail, then they wasted all their time and money on you. So I found myself in that situation. But I went through it, went to trial, 7 days of trial, 3 days of deliberation. I was found not guilty. And it was really a blessing. It was really a blessing how it all went down, the people that were involved and everything like that. So I was ready to hit the workforce. But still with this record looming over me, because when you're found not guilty, it doesn't automatically erase from your record like, hey, this guy's a good guy. No, it stays there. And so I'm getting work, and even, like I said, with a impressive resume, people were like hesitant. I ended up working for this framing company that was doing the framework for American Royal Arts, which was the entertainment fine art leader for 25 years. Well, the company ended up being sold, and when the owner closed it, he said, listen, the people that we do the frames for, they need somebody in their shipping department. And I was like, you know what? At this point, I'll take it. You know, I was like, there was no more pride in like, you know, you have to swallow your pride. You know, I was used to making $80,000, $90,000 a year, and now I'm making $12, $14 an hour. It's a really big difference. But I worked there, and I worked my way up through the company again into accounting, and I started doing the accounting. But I learned the art business. And the one thing I learned was, yes, that is one hard business. I was like, you really have to work to sell, to really have to go that extra mile. And he ended up retiring and selling the company, and I ended up getting into waste management. And it was like another thing, like here I am starting over again. I got in, and I only got in because I knew somebody, because again, my record was hindering me. But I got up to a certain point in waste management, and again, I found myself getting ready to start over. So I looked to this company, and I mean, what an amazing company. It's a nationwide company. The position was lucrative, and I went for it. I went to the interview. First interview was great. As far as I knew, I was hired. They were like, you're who we want. You know, everything. I met the whole team. They said, next week, come in. You're going to finish all the paperwork up. You'll meet the HR department and the owners. I go to this interview, but I'm going to stop. Before I go to this interview, I have a dinner guest. My wife's friend ended up being engaged to this guy named Steve Stock, who at the time I knew he worked with Guy Harvey, but I didn't know who he was to Guy Harvey. And I had already started doing my artwork because my mom had passed away. So sorry to go backtrack a little bit, but after the trial was over, during my tenure at Waste Management, right before I left there, my mother passed away. And my mother was like that was my homie, my best friend. I bought my house 4 houses down from my mom because that's how close we were. You know, my wife would come looking for me. I was sitting at the kitchen table talking to my mom, you know. And so when she passed away, it devastated me because, you know, first of all, they told us she was going to live for 5 years. So we were like preparing, you know, okay, we're going to try and travel, try and get some things out of the way. 6 months later, she was gone. And it was like pure devastation. And so one of the devastating problems that I had was I lost the ability to draw. I couldn't draw anymore. I noticed it when I was at the hospital with her. I was having trouble getting my ideas out. And when she passed away, it completely gone, the ability. It was just like I couldn't get my hands and my mind to correlate. Yet the images that I had, that creative side of me was still there. And so I started making these collages. Now I had made one 5 years earlier on I threw away my wife's Cosmopolitan magazine. So guys, don't do that. So I didn't realize it was a pretty important collection to her. And so she was like, all right, well, you got rid of my stuff. So those lowrider magazines, they got to go. Now, I'm a lowrider builder, so it's like, wait, what? That's like a Bible. So, you know, I told her, I said, well, I want to take something out of them that'll make something special, something that means something to me, something that when people come in my house, they're going to say, that's this guy. And so I created this one piece called First Impression. And then I didn't create another one for 5 years, of course, because I was into drawing. I wasn't into collage art. In fact, I didn't really like collage art. I just did that one piece. And so I started doing, after my mom passed away, I was trying to draw. I was trying to get myself back into this art mode. My wife came in, she says, why don't you do another collage? Maybe spend some time doing that. So I spent like a year and a half after she passed away doing these collages. Now we're going to fast forward to this meeting. So when I would make some of them, I would hang them up in my house. If my wife and kids liked them, they were going up. If they didn't, it stayed in my little area there, you know, if it didn't match the house. And so I had the hanging up, and we have these dinner guests over, and I'm sitting there talking to this guy. Now imagine that if I'm talking, right, or you're talking to me. Like I'm picking at you. So imagine you're talking to me, but I keep doing this. And you're in your house. You're gonna wonder what the heck is, and I'm from Chicago, and I don't have like a roach problem like normal people have. No. I get random things in my house, like giant spiders that I didn't know Florida had, roaches the size of my hand, like the Florida stuff, lizards, you know. And so here I am. I know this guy works for Guy Harvey. I know he's somebody important in that industry, and he's staring behind me, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, there's something walking on my wall. I know it. So I looked, because I was just like, I had it. I was like, and I looked back, and the only thing there was one of my pieces of art. I gave him that look like, you work with Guy Harvey. What are you doing looking at my collage art? You know what I mean? I was kind of shocked. And he goes, I'm sorry, I'm listening to you. Where did you get that? And I said, I made that. And he's like, you made that? I'm like, yeah. He goes, where are the other ones? Which took me back because I didn't tell him there was more. And I was like, well, what makes you think there's more? Gotta get, you get that. I'm from Chicago. We're automatically going to be like, well, what you asking for? So, it was like, so what makes you think there's more? And he's like, because nobody does that once. And I was like, there's 6 of them. There were 6 at the time. I think there's like 14 now. And so he's like, I said, yeah, there's several of them. There's like 6 of them. He's like, I want to see them. So I took him around my house and showed him the ones that were hanging up. Then we went to what I call my Bears room. I'm from Chicago. I'm a Bears fan still. So I have this wall painted Chicago Bears blue. But I had all my artwork on there. And all the Dolphins fans are like, oh. So we're sitting there, and he tells me, he looks at me dead serious. And this guy's like, he stands like 6'4", you know what I mean? Not a small guy. And he goes, do you know who I am? And like, again, I switch in that Chicago, I'm like, you know who I am? You know what I mean? I'm like, well, I just kind of was like, well, I know you work with Guy Harvey. And he's like, no, I don't work with Guy Harvey. Guy Harvey works for me. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, that's interesting. I said, so why are you looking at my art? Like, that's where my mind kept going, And that was you. So then, he says, I was the one that went to Guy Harvey and told him I'm going to make you famous. And I did. He's like, and if you don't know, he's now the world's renowned nautical artist. And I said, yeah, I'm actually aware of that. It's been a kind of a goal of mine since I started thinking about, because I thought about selling the art. Because I started getting a lot of people that were telling me, hey, this is really cool. But I was like, nah. But now this guy, the guy who found Guy Harvey's telling me, listen, this is special. And he says, in my job making Guy Harvey the most renowned nautical artist in the world, I had to travel around the world to every continent and sell his art. He's like, and in America, collage art might not be the most popular, but in the rest of the world, it is one of the most difficult mediums to capture. He goes, and in all my travels, I've never seen anybody do it like this. And I was like, really? He goes, nothing in the world like it. You need to show the world your artwork. So I was like, the art business is tough, man. I worked for American Royal Arts. And he was like, oh, so you know Jerry? I'm like, yeah, yeah, I know Jerry, And so it was like one of those kind of things, like we end up knowing some of the same people because of the industry. So he's like, listen, if you ever decide you want to really get started, you really want to show the world your art, come to me, and I will make sure that all of your products are the best. And I was like, all right, well, I'll think about it, My mind, now this was a Thursday. I had that interview on Tuesday, and I had the second interview the following Tuesday. So in between that interview is when this dinner place. I went to the second interview. I walk in. One woman sitting at the desk. And she doesn't look as happy as the other people from last week. Everybody was really happy to see me last week. What happened, So I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm all excited. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. And she's like, good to meet you. And I was like, okay. It's like, somebody's not happy, So then I said, are we waiting for the owners or the other people? Because I'm like excited to meet all these people, you know what I mean? And she says, no, unfortunately, I wanted to call you so you didn't have to waste your time, but we can't hire you. And I was like, whoa, what do you mean you can't hire me? What happened? And now my mind is racing because I'm like, I left waste management for this, I'm thinking to myself, you got to be kidding me. So I was like, well, what happened? I'm like, last week everything was fine. I mean, you're holding my resume right there in front of you. What happened? And she says, well, honestly, you have some really, really steep charges that were pressed against you at one time. And almost in an arrogant way, I was like, ma'am, with all due respect, if you really did your research, you would find that I was found not guilty of all charges. And that pride of like, yeah, a jury of people that were not my peers said I didn't do this. And with a dead serious look in her face, she goes, so was OJ. Yeah. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? You can't make this up. I was so angry that I couldn't be. Have you ever been so mad at somebody that you're just not even mad anymore? You're just like, that was good. And that's what I did. I just like, you're right, so was OJ. I grabbed my resume, I said, you have a nice day. And I walked downstairs, I got in my car, and I'm not a crying guy. And I cried, because I was humiliated. Here was former gang member, former graffiti artist, from Chicago, got in trouble down here, got myself out of it, worked to become this person that I would no longer be looked at in that light. And because of one mistake by an officer, not even me, I was once again put in this light. I was completely humiliated. And so I thought about it on the way home. I thought to myself, I can hear Steve Stock's words. You should show the world your art. You should show the world your art. And when I lost my mom, there was those moments of, God, what legacy am I leaving? What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? My whole life has been geared towards get a job, build myself up into a company, and that's it. There was no real who I am. There was nothing me in any of that. And how am I going to do that? But how am I still going to do that and be a good father and be a good husband, be a provider? What am I going to teach my kids? Am I going to show them how to build a business? So all these things were wrestling through my mind as I drove home. And when I got home, I walked in the house, and I looked at my wife with tears still in my eyes, and I said, I was humiliated. They said I'm a thug, basically, and this is what, and I told her what happened. And I was broken, and I said, I'm going to call Steve, and we're going to start this business. And I said, we're going to struggle, because I'm going to tell you now it's going to be hard. I was like, but the thing was is that I was smart. When I was working for Waste Management, I had a lot of perks, a lot of discounts, a lot of things. One of those things that that Waste Management does is they were very into family stuff. Well, they helped me, and I was able to put my wife through college. So she was finishing up as all this was going on, and landed a position like right within that week. Somebody called and was like, hey, want this position? It's for you. And it was basically making almost what we were making combined. And so I told her, I said, listen, because she didn't have the credit, I did. So I bought her a Jeep, and I had at the time a brand new Cadillac that had the STS V. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that's the Cadillac tone. I turned it in. I got myself this little old Honda, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna start over, and instead of building my way up into another company, instead of building my way up, I'm gonna build my own company and do my own thing. And so that's how that came to be. So now I had to come up with a name, I had to come up with a logo, and these are all the steps that I started taking. And so, I turned in the car, came up with a name, came up with a logo, started figuring out, okay, I called Steve and I said, all right, I need to get my artwork onto canvas, onto museum paper. How do I do that? Because I don't want to sell the originals yet. I want to keep the originals. And so he helped me with that, and he's like, is there any products you want? And I said, you know what, I want to know what Guy Harvey did. I want to know how he did it. How did he become a world-renowned nautical artist when there are plenty of artists that paint fish? Well, there's a lot of artists that are collage artists in the world, and there's a lot of artists that can paint what I collage. How do you make a name for yourself doing that? And one thing that we have is social media. We have the option for social media. So I started pushing it on social media. That was the first thing I did. I started putting my art out there. I would Google collage art and hashtag collage art, and I was like, dang, man, I must be doing this wrong because it doesn't look like anybody else's. And that's why I kept thinking, man, nobody's going to buy this. Then all of a sudden, I get a phone call. Hi, yeah, we're looking for MagChop. And I'm like, yeah, this is Kenny from MagChop. And we get into this conversation. The lady's like, yeah, how much do you charge, blah, blah. So I was like, yeah, I could do a custom piece. And I'm thinking, shit, these things take months to make. These people talking about they need it within the 3 months. And I was like, all right, I could fit that in. So I was like, do me a favor, send me a bunch of images that you want in the piece. And she's like, okay. So she's like, I'll send it over. And I was like, well, how did you hear about me? She's like, well, actually, we had our team looking for a collage artist, and all 3 of them came back with your name, with MagChop. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. So now I open up the pictures, because I'm all excited to see what kind of people that I'm doing this piece for. What do they want in this piece? I start opening the pictures, and it's nothing but pictures of Chris Brown's mom, his kid, and I'm like, so I call him like, what am I doing here? What's going on? And she said, oh, it's for Chris Brown. We're presenting it to him for the start of his tour. We're part of his team, and we're presenting it to him at the beginning of his tour in LA. So that's what that is. That was the first major celebrity piece that I did, was for Chris Brown. And it was like, it started taking off from there. People started taking notoriety to my work. And so I was like, all right, well, what's the next thing to do? What would be another cool product that I got? I didn't want to just do the phone case thing, the t-shirt thing really quick. You know, I wanted to do something that was a little less, I guess, common, a little less swap shop-ish. And so what I did was I came up with these awesome mugs. And when we figured out that we could put the artwork on the mug, it was like, cool, now picking a mug. So I got 15-ounce mugs because they had the big handles. Little did I know they were, I didn't know they were beer mugs. They're actually considered beer mugs because of the ounces, but they're quality. They're microwave safe, dishwasher, they work. So I was like, all right, so now I have another product, and I was like excited about it. But still, you still have to make those sales, you have to sell the mugs, you have to sell the art, and I was like, okay, how am I gonna get further? So I started doing a lot of different big shows, different things like that. I ended up going into networking events because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to networking events and meet people and see where there's a need. So I first said, I associated how am I gonna get people to like it? How am I gonna get people to feel interested in it? How do I get people to relate to it to take the time? Because sometimes when you look at collage art, there's so much, it's like, wow. But then when you spend the time, how do you get people to do that? And one of the things that I noticed was like, you ever have a song that you don't like, but then it plays during some time that you're doing something exciting, and the next time you hear that song, you're excited because it's like, I remember when I was doing this. I thought about that and said, what do people like? Music videos. So I went to the music industry and was like, hey, can I put my stuff in your music videos? And in meeting there, I met somebody from the TV industry. And they were like, yeah, you should come to this other meeting. And so I was like, all right, cool. I'll go to networking meetings and just keep meeting people. So I went to this other meeting and I met a lady named Rose Warner, who ended up being the PR person for a young race car champion. Well, he wasn't even champion yet. A young race car driver named Ernie Francis Jr. So they were like, yeah, we're trying to do something different. We want to look something, artists to do something cool for us. So I was like, okay, cool. So I put together this collage piece. Boom, they loved it. I ended up getting licensed with him to do his memorabilia. And this kid is 16 years old, racing in the Trans Am series. What the heck? I didn't have a license at 16. I wasn't allowed to. And he ends up winning the championship. He goes on to win 4 more championships and is now the fastest racer in Trans Am history since 1966, youngest person to win it at 16 years old. And he is now the first Haitian American to sign with NASCAR. And I have the rights to his work. It's like, yes. And this is what started happening. So I went to deliver one of his pieces to a client. Lady calls me up, and we start talking. And let me tell you how things work. And the circle, and this is why, one of the things I tell people is that if you're thinking about starting your business, if you're thinking about doing anything, make sure no matter, you should do this in life anyway, but one of the things you have to really be conscious of, how you treat people. Don't let your emotions get the best of you no matter what situation you're in. Because you might meet somebody now, and 3 years down the line, you end up doing business with them. You know what I mean? And so, as I started doing all this stuff, I met this lady. She ends up being the lady who, in 2006, they were going to crash 2 planes over the Bay of New York and kill like 400 people just to fire this lady from the FAA. Just to fire her. Yeah. So she ended up exposing it, saved all these people's lives. She was all over the news. And she had to go into hiding for years. Well, once the case was settled, everything was done, the gag order was lifted because it was only during the trial, and she was able to write a book. So when I met her, she was telling me about this, and I knew about the situation. I was like, wow. So she ended up asking me to do her book cover, which was in the New York Times last week. CQ, My Last Transmission. This is the woman who changed the way they hire, fire, demote, and promote women in the FAA. And I got to do her book cover, which was such an honor. You know what I mean? So as all this was going on, I'm still going, I'm going to different places. I ended up going to this art walk down in Wynwood. And I was like nervous because the guy I was meeting was the guy who used to do the artwork for Bugle Boy jeans. So if anyone's my age, I'm 41, so if y'all remember Bugle Boy jeans, But so, he ended up being that guy. But I went and I talked to him. He's like, well, I want to see your art. So I walked back to the car. On the way back to the car, people are stopping me and like, hey, where'd you get that? I'm giving out cards. I'm on my last freaking card. I go to give it to this guy. I go, dude, this is my last one. And as I'm going to hand it, a hand comes in and snatches it away and says, I just want to look at it. The lady looks at it. She looks at it back. She hands it to the guy and she goes, let me see your art. She goes, I'll definitely see you again. I said, all right, I hope so. And I walk inside. So I met the guy, whatever, I go. 3 months later, I go to this place. It was called Execs and Talents for On Mars Management. It's in a record label out of Miami. I'm walking around there networking, doing my thing, because I became king of networking. Let me tell you something. If you want to know how to network, come to me. I'll get you. You'll meet everybody in the room by the time you're done. And I go to give my card out, and I hear the similar voice. I knew I'd see you again. That's the card. I remember you. And I look, and there's a woman standing there, and I say, yeah, that's right. I remember you did that last time. So we joked or whatever. And she says, hey, I got a gala coming up, and I wanted to have an artist for it. Why don't you do it for me? And I was like, man, I'd be honored. And I had never done an exhibition before. I've never shown my art in that way before. I was like, yeah. And because let me tell you, when you start a business, you have to become a yes man or woman. You have to become a yes person. Everything is, can you do that? Yeah. If you don't, figure it out. You know what I mean? Find somebody that can. Well, this ended up being a woman named Celia Evans, who is the owner of Planet Fashion TV. So I do this rooftop gala, beautiful rooftop gala on the top of, I think it was a Starlight Hotel or Sea Star Hotel or something like that. And so it was really cool. It was really great. I got really great exposure, sold a piece, and I was like, yes, this is awesome, And fast forward, I ended up working with her later on, and that I'm going to get into all that. So as I started growing the company, I started getting myself into movies. I was like, that was my thing. I was like, let me get into TV shows. So I started doing like independent films and short films and things like that. And with that came, I would be on set, and I would have my artwork on set, and people were like, hey, can you be an extra real quick? Do you mind doing it? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll play pretend, And so I did it. Now, here's the thing. Because of the fact that I was so concerned about the light that people would see me in, for the first 2 or 3 years that I started my company, I would only wear suits. You wouldn't see me anywhere without a suit on. I would go to Walmart in a suit. Like, I'm the guy in the suit. They were going to look at me one way and one way only. So I ended up getting these photographers' attention. They were like, hey, we're coming from Missouri. We're doing a nationwide traveling shoot, and we chose you to shoot you. And I was like, oh, all right, cool, So I was like, so I had all my outfits ready and everything, and the guy's like, no, we kind of want to catch you because we always see you in a suit. We kind of want to catch you in your natural way. And I was very like how I dress, no, nobody can see that. So I was like, okay, I'll wear a Bears jersey and some Dickies or whatever, and that'll be my thing. You know what I mean? So I had the first suit, and I had like my nice clothes on. So then I go and I change, I come back, and I was looking for my shirt, and I took my shirt off to change shirts. And the guy goes, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't know you had all those tattoos. And I'm like, yeah, nobody does. And he's like, well, no, we got to shoot that. And I'm like, oh, no. No, not at all. And he's like, no, we have to shoot that. And so I was like, all right, well, I was really uncomfortable with it. And finally, my wife was like, do it, let people see that there's this other side of you. And he's like, the photographer's like, you people got to see this. They got to know that he's like, because I knew there was an edginess to you, but seeing that is going to be like, oh, okay, this guy he's real, And so I was like, oh, okay, so I did it. So I took the picture. It ends up being posted. And I get this random phone call from this like Asian guy. He's like, hey, real strong accent. He's like, can you send me a selfie because I want to use you for a commercial? What? I'm like, what? Like, yeah, sure, why not? So, so I was like, yeah, I'm working on a car right now. So I sent him a picture. I'm all dirty, tattoos showing. Perfect. Can you meet me in Miami tomorrow at this time? So I'm like, all right. I'm looking at the area. It's not that bad, but it's not, it's Miami. You know what I mean? It's a city. It's like Chicago's really not that bad, but if you go there at night, or certain neighborhoods, you're in trouble. So I was like, all right, I'll go down there. So I go down there. They loved me. Then we ended up getting along. Great group of people. We shoot this commercial, and I saw one of the guys, and I was thinking, I walked up to the guy, and I was like, hey, good to see you again, because I thought I knew him, right? No, I didn't realize until I saw the commercial, it was Flo Rida. So, so I'm in this commercial with Paris Hilton and Flo Rida, but I had no idea that this was, and they paid me pretty good. I was like, oh, all right, fed me. So these are the things that started happening. Doors just started opening, but I still was like, all right, I want to create more streams of income. So what do? What other product can I come out with? And I was sitting around with one of my friends. He'd come from out of town, and he had just gotten married, and he was like, dude, I need something like for my wife to wear with your art on it. And I was like, well, I'm not doing like shirts or anything. Like, he goes, no, I need a bathing suit. Get me a bathing suit. And I was like, that's a good idea. Bathing suits. Bathing suits make the world go round. So, I was like, I'm gonna do it. So I was like, all right, let's do it. Well, it ended up becoming a very tedious and expensive project. And I was like, okay, there's gotta be a cheaper way. Now, in the midst of all these networking events that I'd gone to, I went to one where I ended up meeting this lady who actually was the owner of the Palm Beach version of Swim Week. And so it turned out that I had actually met her 10 years earlier at a car show. You see, this is what I'm saying. It's like 10 years later, I'm meeting this lady, and I'm like, yeah, I was at that car show. And she's like, yeah, I won. And I was like, oh my God, I know your car. And I was describing her car to her, and I'm like, you built that? And now you do fashion? Like, how did that happen? You know what I mean? It was like one of those things. So she tells me, so after I did my first couple bathing suits, I was like, there's got to be a cheaper way. So I called her. I was like, hey, you got a way to make these cheaper? And she's like, well, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to getting big? And I was like, yeah, I want to be bigger than Guy Harvey. That's been my answer for everything. Like, yeah, I'll be bigger than Guy Harvey. She's like, all right, well, I'll give you an opportunity if you can pull it off, in Palm Beach Swim Week. And I was like, cool. Now, at this time, I had already been to Miami Swim Week, so I knew the prestigiousness of Miami, so there was no way I was going to Celia and saying, hey, for my first time, can I come to your show? Because, it's Miami. It's you can't. It's Miami. So I was like, all right, I'll do this. I did the Palm Beach Swim Week, and we slayed it. The look was good, the bathing suits looked great and everything like that. But things didn't go as planned, and there was some extras, and then when the company that we used to do our bathing suits actually went under right after the show. So I had no way to reproduce what I made, so I had to start over. And in starting over, I had been doing some stuff, and I ran into Celia, and we had talked, and over the years, Celia and I had become really good friends. And so I think what had happened was I ended up getting contacted by this guy, Jimmy, that I met at Palm Beach Swim Week, and he's like, hey, listen, you have a really cool story. I had gotten invited to the Cannes Film Festival to show my line at Cannes, but I wasn't ready. But I was like, I'll get it ready, it'll be fine. I accepted the invitation, and so Jimmy says, listen, there's a magazine I want you to be in that I want to talk to you about, that I think you should meet the owner. It'd be nice to have you covered in the magazine. So we do this whole shoot and, do the interview with the magazine, covering everything. And I mean, I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at who's in this, who's going to be in this magazine. She's telling me some of the people, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm in good company to be in a magazine with these particular celebrities. Well, I get a call after the magazine came out from that woman back there, Miss Vanessa, who says, hey, congratulations on the cover of the magazine. I'm like, what? What? So this happened. I got in the cover of Creative Magazine out of Miami, which is really a big publication. And I mean, the feature is really nice. I almost want to open it and show you guys. It's insane. So I ended up, talking to Vanessa about it, and I was really excited about it. And then she was like, hey, listen, why don't you do something with Planet Fashion TV? And I was like, well, do you think Celia would let me in Miami Swim Week? And she did. She was like, okay, can you be ready? This is, Celia sat with me, we went and sat down. She's like, this is what we expect. You have to come with quality, you have to be ready. You have to be ready. We're not just doing this for fun. This is legitimate business. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be ready. I'll make sure I'm ready. We'll have everything. And now at the time, I had found new product, people make new products, things like that, and all this, all this kind of jazz to make things happen. So it's like, let me tell you, sublimation, learning about sublimation and how to material and how to properly get it to look right and colors. I thought my stuff looked good until I saw it against real quality. And that's how you know you're growing. When you can look at your stuff that you thought was great and go, wow, how did I even think that was great? That's when I knew. I was like, okay, this is that level I need to be on. This is Miami Swim Week quality. You know what I mean? But these shows are expensive, so you have to pay a lot of money into them. So what you do is you get people to invest, or you get people like other products to come in. I ended up being blessed because I sponsored the Lowrider show. And sponsoring the Lowrider show, they did a big advertisement at the Dade County Fair. And it's like $5,000 to be at the Dade County Fair. I think it's $10,000 now to show for those 20 days at the Dade County Fair. In the Dade County Fair, I ended up meeting that guy standing back there, wave your hand, that's Munier of Miami Moonrays, and he had these amazing sunglasses, and he was like, listen man, I would love to be in your show. So he was able to help me finance Swim Week, and my models wore his sunglasses both in West Palm Swim Week, in Miami Swim Week, the Cosmic Film Festival and Fashion Show in Orlando, and we just got back from doing Chicago. So it was like, now I got a teammate, I got somebody with me that does something that's different but complements, and I just started building that network. And you know, as I started going, I got another book cover. This one is called Cry Me a River of Blood. It's by Lillian Stanjabar, and we did the book cover for that. I had a guy named Pedro that works for MagChop that does the digital part of it all. So I've been building this team together to kind of get things going. So now we're doing stuff. I've sold stuff to like Johnny O and Cynthia, Luis Guzman. I mean, I have a really nice clientele list, but it took networking, it took a lot of hard work, dedication, sacrifice to get here, to get to where I'm at. We ended up doing, let me tell you, when we did Miami, oh my gosh, we had a casting call that Tuesday. My stuff wasn't in yet. My show was Saturday. On Thursday night at 6:30, I got all my stuff in. I had Celia calling me, are you going to be ready? Because I've got a lot riding on this. I'm like, I'll be ready, I promise. I didn't even have my stuff yet, and I was promising, yeah, I'll be ready. Sheesh. But you know what? You have to keep that positive and know that everything's going to be okay. And if you're working and you're pushing and you're, really, just speak on it, manifest it. It'll work. You know what I mean? A lot of faith. I'm a man of faith, so I'm telling you, you got to have faith. And so this is how I've been. This is what MagChop has been. And so now our goal has been, okay, how do we get into stores? How do I go to that next level? I got opened up to the Mass Art District when, like a couple months ago, then they started doing the new thing when Choose 954 and the AAF thing started coming in. I came to the first meeting or second meeting? And I was like, man, these people, they're really talking about doing some art stuff. So the second meeting the second time I came was an art walk, right? It was an art walk, and I did the art walk, I paid the thing, and then I got to speak. And I ended up showing my mugs to Veronica and George from Tula Bistro, and they were like, listen, we'd love to carry your mugs. So now you can actually buy my mugs at the Tula Bistro. So that was like the first time I got into a store. I was like, hey, I'm in a store. You know what I mean? So that was exciting. And then I started just going around, and they opened up a new place in Fort Lauderdale called 00 Saloon. So I went over there and I presented my artwork to the owner and was like, hey, listen, I would like to see if my artwork would decorate your place. My artwork actually decorates both floors of it now. 2 floors of it, and you can buy the artwork off the wall. So if you go in there and say, yeah, I like that piece, pay them for it, I'll ship you one for free. So you don't even have to worry about them trying to take it off the wall, because those things are on there. And so now I'm getting in, we're in talks right now. They're building our display at Citywide in Hollywood, downtown Hollywood, and we're looking at a boutique as well in LA. Right across from Staples Center. So what I did was I went from the bathing suits, I actually transitioned into activewear. So now I do leggings, activewear tops, swimwear, both bikinis and one pieces, several different one pieces. So I got something for everybody. I'm working on the men's stuff, yeah. So this was me at Miami Swim Week, man. And let me tell you, it was so cool because we had the last 4 models. We played Darth Vader's music, and they came out with lightsabers. It was freaking awesome. Everyone loved it. People were going nuts over it. Except one of the models actually touches the lightsaber, and you hear people in the crowd go, oh. Don't you know you don't touch a lightsaber? But this is what it's been, and it's been a struggle. It's been hard, but there's been some greatness in the midst of it all. So I guess, the whole thing of me coming here today is to tell you that, listen, no matter what the adversity is, stay focused, stay true to yourself, stay true to the people around you, do everything with love, with honest love, and you'll make it. You can make anything happen. Your dreams can come true. I'm really living a dream. I'm traveling now. I'm going to see a lot of different places. I consider myself successful in life. I'm married to a woman who actually likes me. I got 2 kids that are cool. They like me too. I have a dog and a cat. They get along. You know what I mean? So in life, I feel like I'm successful. So why not pursue it in business, and why not pursue a dream? So if you have a dream, go for it. Pursue it. Yeah, you're going to have to there's the hustle in between. Like, when sales weren't good with art and I wasn't having everything going through, I was doing other things. So don't be afraid, don't be discouraged if you say, man, I didn't want to have to go back to doing this kind of work. You're going to have to sometimes, you know what I mean? You got to have multiple streams of income to be able to survive, because everything costs. From the shows, for art shows, it costs money to show your art that hopefully somebody's going to buy it. Because if you don't, then you're just kind of like, dang, I just set up all this for 3 hours, nobody bought my stuff. It hurts. It hurts. So think about that as well. When you guys go to these art shows and to these shoppings and you see somebody over there and they have a table full of $20, $30, $50 items, or even some of the more expensive, you have the money to buy something, you like it, and you can afford it, support that business, because you know what, that they might be that next Guy Harvey, that next Massimo, Nike. You never know who's in front of you, and that's my goal, is to be that next, that name, but I want to have different facets. I've created movie posters. I've had my artwork in Lifetime original movies. I'm in commercials. I'm in music videos. I A&R now for On Mars Management. If I see talent, I'm sending them over to John. I'm like, hey, I got one for you, So you got to have all kinds of different facets to whatever you're doing, and don't be afraid to expand. If you would have told me 2 years ago that I'd be a fashion designer, I'd have called you a liar. I'd be like, no. But now the joke is I made it my work to look at women in bikinis. Yeah, who could do that? You know what I mean? Don't worry, I look and I don't touch. I love my wife, so it's not worth it. But I would have never thought that would have been something that I would have been able to do. And to go, don't be afraid to venture into everything. There's nothing you can't do, and as long as you're doing it right, there's a path that you're going to be on, and you will get on that path. It'll find its way to you, no matter what. But stay positive. Don't let it bog you down. I mean, it's sometimes very easy for me to want to give up. It's very easy for me to want to just try and go find that job to hide out in, because sometimes, as you get known and get more popularity, you get those weird things that happen, like when you're in a random restaurant and people are like, oh my God, it's you! And you're like, who are you? And but it's fun, it's cool, but it's sometimes, you feel bad because like you don't realize these people are really looking at you. And when you're in this industry as well, people are looking at you. They want to see what you do, how you do it. A lot of people are always asking me, how did you get to these places? And I always answer, networking. If you want your business to succeed, no matter what it is, whether it's your business, the business you're working for, networking is the key. There is nothing more important than networking. Go everywhere. Every networking event, don't ever be too big for anybody. Don't ever be too good for anybody. If someone tells you, hey man, do you mind sharing my page? Share it, post, because you know what happens is that people might like it, and then someone who knows them might somehow see it and go, oh, who's this person? Now they're following you. Now you post in your business, they're like, oh man, I'm glad I followed this person, because now I can see their stuff. You know what I mean? If you have a family or friend, or you are, starting your business, don't be afraid to tell your friends, hey, listen, can you go like my stuff? Take the time to like it all. You know what I mean? Because you have to understand the algorithms of social media too. You're going to have to use your social media. So when it comes to your business, businesses have changed now. Even movie theaters are changing. Everything changes. Toys R Us went out of business because they didn't change. They didn't change. They didn't find any other way to bring in customers, to bring in business. So that's what I'm doing with MagChop. And one of the other things I'm trying to do is I'm opening a division that's going to be for movie posters and book covers, so I can go get those artists that can do that and say, here, you have a job. Because I hate the mantra of the starving artist. Because it's a very true mantra. And the reason why is because sometimes we do stuff for free to try and get it out there. And what happens is we're hoping that when we did something for free for this person, that when they're doing it again, they're going to come to you and say, hey, I'll pay you this time. You know what ends up happening is that they end up finding somebody else that's going to do it for free. And so you're like in this circle of people doing stuff for free, and you're like, how do I get out of this circle? Easy, say no. That's sometimes saying no is the best thing to do. Like, I'd love to do that project, but it's going to cost you. And when they don't get it, and they know when they know your quality, and they don't get it for free anymore, then they're going to be willing to pay for it. So you have to sometimes do that. I mean, I'm for and against free work. You have to do some of it for free. You have to give some of it for free. There's no way around that. People have to be able to see your work. They have to know who you are. Give it to them. You know what I mean? But then at a certain point, when you're starting to get that notoriety where people are now looking for you, that's when you don't have to anymore. That's when you can say, no, I can charge. I know what I'm worth now. Now I know that this is worth it. And And I can tell you as an artist, one of the hardest things is to see your own worth and to sell your own product. I could sell ice to Eskimos, but selling my art was difficult for me. And when I have a booth, I usually have people work my booth. I have to walk away. My wife will send me away. She'll be like, listen, you got to get away. You talk too much. Because that's one of the struggles. So, like I said, just stay focused on what you're doing, whatever it is that you do. Network, social media, and just keep a positive attitude, treat people right, and do honest business with integrity. I hope I covered it all.